Every alcoholic is responsible for becoming an alcoholic. And admitting responsibility doesn't mean admitting powerlessness. That makes no sense to me. That's the opposite of what you should do. Admitting responsibility means admitting that you are powerful. I don't think that drugs are good for you. I never have, even when I was doing them. It was from a perspective of self-destruction, not self-improvement or self-realization or anything like that.
I can't remember if it was in the first or second half of freshman year. It was probably towards the end of the first half of freshman year when I tried alcohol for the first time. I was just at, a college party and, poured a little vodka into my orange soda. Tasted kind of funny, but, I got it down. And before I knew it, I was feeling pretty good, feeling pretty great. Best feeling I ever had in my life when I first had alcohol. It was a wonderful feeling. I was already 18 years old, you know what I mean? I was legal to drink in a lot of countries. But it was something. I felt pretty good. I said I could get used to this. I actually kind of said to myself, "Oh man, I'm in trouble. I like this too much."
Hey everybody, it's Willie the Composer. I am back. It is 2026. Can you believe we made it this far, folks? Can you believe we made it? Last year in November, I achieved my initial weight loss goal, which was 70 pounds, to get below 200 pounds for the first time in my adult life. And shortly afterwards, the winter came, and, I achieved gaining 20 pounds back on. But that's okay. Spring is around the corner. I'm getting back on my diet and exercise regimen, and we're going to get back to it. And this time, I can really feel it. I'm going to work harder than ever before. And when I get back below 200 pounds, I'm going to have a little something more to show for it, let's just say.
I think I have control over myself now, except for overeating, as you can see. I've been trying to lose weight. We're working on it. We're getting there. This year it's going to happen. I'm going to lose a ton of weight. You'll be surprised. I'm going to get buff. I'm going to get friggin' ripped. You wait and see.
I began my weight loss journey, I guess you could call it, back in March. It was when I just determined, okay, today's the day I change things up. Just like on a random day in August in 2022, I decided to quit using tobacco products and nicotine products altogether when I had been so heavily addicted to them for 8 years. And I just had a mind to change that and to be different. And I did. And I haven't touched the stuff since. And this is it. The final dip, the final tobacco product, the final nicotine buzz.
Today's video topic is a big one. As of March 5th, which is the day I'm uploading this video, I will officially have been 1 year sober from alcohol, and it feels great. I tell you what, it's the best decision I ever made, and I always knew. I used to tell myself, one day I'll quit drinking. One day I'll stop drinking. I'll never drink again. I'll reach a point. For the sake of my health, for the sake of not being addicted, for whatever reason, I'll quit. So last year I did. It was Ash Wednesday. And to be fair, I hadn't been drinking that regularly up to that point anyway. But by the time March came, I decided, okay, I'll give up alcohol for Lent, which is a tradition that's done in Catholic faith, and Orthodox has their own version of it as well. So I gave up drinking. It wasn't really on Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday is when you're supposed to start your fast. It was really the night of Ash Wednesday when I got drunk for the last time. Miller Lite, which is my favorite beer, and Fireball whiskey, which isn't really whiskey, but it's, I guess my favorite liquor. And that was it. I woke up the next day feeling kind of shitty and said, this is the last time I'm going to feel this way, at least for the foreseeable future. I didn't really plan on quitting drinking altogether forever. I thought, well, come Easter, I'll go visit my family, and then I'll have a drink then. I'll just for Lent, give it a try. But with each day that passed, I felt better, and I was happier and happier because of my decision. And I reached this sort of like spiritual clarity that I just hadn't felt before. and it occurred to me why a lot of religions like Islam bans alcohol altogether, and a lot of Christian religions discourage or ban alcohol. The reason they do that is pretty simple. It's not for control over the people of the religion. I mean, it is, but it's more because those things separate you from God, right? So anyways, I found myself closer to God than ever, which I know for people who aren't religious, you might not understand that, but
the reason you take drugs is totally to dull your senses. The reason you get drunk is because it simplifies your thoughts. It returns you to a more primordial state. You know, you're not as evolved of a human being. You're not as sensitive or considerate or whatever else. For me, I also wanted to rid myself of not desire, not, because you can't rid yourself of desire. Desire is just part of being human. But of, attachments of addictions, of needing to do things. That's why I quit tobacco. It wasn't for any reason other than the fact that I was addicted.
I find that on a day-to-day basis, I have more energy. I can focus easier. I sleep better. It's easier to keep a diet until the holidays hit and you're eating all that wonderfully bad for you food. But seriously, I would say for anybody, give it a try. And for me, it wasn't like a lifelong commitment. Like when I quit tobacco, I said I'm done forever. I knew I was going to be done forever. But with Lent went through Lent, didn't drink. Easter came, and I said, I have no desire to drink. And even though other people around me were drinking, I wasn't jealous of them. And I guess I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube that has drug addicts and alcoholics in it who have ruined their lives. You know what I mean? Like, good example for me was a guy like Nick Rekieta, who absolutely destroyed his life with alcohol and later cocaine, and totally blew up his whole entire reputation. And even though he's a trust fund baby who will be taken care of for the rest of his life, you know what I mean? There's no true rock bottom for somebody like that, because he could never admit to his own wrongdoing, to his own faults, to his own shortcomings. He'll never be able to get back the success and the prestige, the status that he had years ago. So that's just an example of a guy, a YouTube lawyer, who ruined his life. But I look at people like that and I'm like, I do not want to be that person. And also other people that I've known in my personal life, I look at how alcohol has affected them. And what's funny is when I was drinking alcohol, which happened over the course of, from the time I was in college until last year, I don't think I ever achieved like a rock bottom, or I don't think my life ever really suffered because of drinking. I know for a lot of alcoholics, they don't get clean. They can't get clean until they sink to the bottom, until they have that realization. But I don't know. My brain's different from other people's brains. For me, it was more like, even though I had total control over it, I still felt like it was controlling me in a way that I didn't like. That May, after I quit drinking, Easter came, didn't feel like drinking. That May, I went to a wedding. Wedding is the time to get drunk. It's a time when people who never drink, certainly not on a day-to-day, weekly basis, whatever, people who almost never drink will get hammered at weddings because it's just the situation, the time to get drunk. I didn't drink, and I didn't want to drink. And you know what I mean? The drinks were free. I didn't want one. I drank a bunch of Cokes. And you know something? I danced my ass off. And I forget this, but I get reminded every time I go to a wedding. I love to dance. Oh my God, I love to dance. And I'm not that good at it. And I'm pretty embarrassing. I am like the most white people dancer of any white person that ever danced. But man, do I get into it, man. I swing my hips and I kick my legs. And sometimes I fall over and make a fool of myself. But I don't care. And I realize a lot of those people, if they weren't drinking, could never loosen themselves up to be that way. And I realized that I can be that way myself, that I don't need that. That I can have, it's not just I can have fun without drinking. I felt like I had more fun because I wasn't drinking. That I could actually fully experience it and remember it, and the next day still feel great. Like I gave myself a good workout. Like my legs were sore from how much I danced, you know? So I'm just saying, like, you see these occasions where you think, oh, I've got to drink because you're supposed to drink at those occasions, when you realize you might actually enjoy yourself more without the booze. So that was so encouraging. I went through the summer. I had a great summer. And then going into the fall, I went to another wedding, didn't have to drink, still danced around and made a fool of myself and enjoyed it. And in the winter, the fall and the winter came, I went to a couple of Steelers games here in Pittsburgh. Had a great time. The Steelers games were some of my favorite experiences. Even though we lost, I was there for the playoff game when the Steelers lost to the Texans. That was tough. It was tough. It was 6-7 at halftime, but it got ugly at the end there. But I stayed at the very end because you pay so much for those tickets. I want to get my money's worth. But I didn't drink any of the alcohol. I didn't feel the urge to. And I was able to just cut loose and enjoy myself. And, to be fair, I've never been that repressive of my emotions, you know what I mean? Throughout my life, as a kid growing up, people who went to school with me, they know, I could be pretty expressive when I'm in a comfortable situation, when I'm around people I know, or I'm in an event like the Steeler game or something where I can just cut loose. I really don't care too much. I'm not super self-conscious, in that way. I'm self-conscious in other ways, but in that way, I can really just let myself go in public. I don't care if I look like a fool. But it's really been I find with every year, I focus more and more on just honing my mental, physical, spiritual health, and understanding that when I do slip up, that it's okay, but just to get back to it. And that's how you have to live life.
It's okay to fail, but it's not okay to be okay with failing.
And I really do feel like a lot of people out there who suffer from different mental problems, mental illness, maybe they're taking psychiatric medication. I can't get inside their brain. I can't experience what it's like for them on a day-to-day basis. I don't know their struggles. You know what I mean? It's impossible for me to really live in someone else's shoes. But I'm telling you, I think a lot of people, if they could know what I know and live their lives the way that I've been able to, I know a lot of people could improve themselves if they could take my advice somehow. You know what I mean? And they might not need psych meds or whatever. I swear to God, because I'm not necessarily the most mentally healthy person ever. I've had breakdowns in the past. You've heard about it. But the path to recovery, it just begins every day, and just every day, another day would go by, and I don't want to drink. And it's totally different from nicotine though. With nicotine, I was really fully addicted, and I would have that voice in my head saying, "Oh, you want something," and it was just fighting the urge for me became more of a battle of me versus them, and I wasn't going to be the loser. So I fought the urge, like a battle. Whereas with alcohol, it was you know what? I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. The thought of getting drunk makes me sick to my stomach. If I ever get a disturbance in my stomach, or if I get dehydrated, if I start to have similar feelings to what it feels like to be drunk, it really scares me. It turns me off. You know what I'm saying? I really hate that, the feeling of the being drunk, the whole, it's just not a rush that I like anymore. I prefer energy. I've become a caffeine addict, actually, at this point, more so than ever, which is, just like when I gave up Benadryl, I had to start, dipping tobacco every day to replace it. You know what I'm saying? So now I've sort of replaced the alcohol with the caffeine a little bit, and I love Celsius energy drinks, sugar-free Red Bull too. It's not necessarily that great for you, that stuff, but it is just, the caffeine, and of course coffee. I didn't start drinking coffee till I was in my late 20s, by the way. I never liked it. I didn't like the taste. I still don't really like the taste of coffee unless it's a really fancy, expensive coffee. But the coffee that you get from the store really doesn't taste that good. I get Cafe Bustelo. It's better than the other cheap brands. But anyway, that is all just to say that I'm so happy I did it. And I was thinking about making a video back then a year ago talking about how I was going to quit alcohol for Lent, or after Lent when Easter came, how I was like, no, I think I'm going to stay off it for now. And then now I said, you know what? I'll give it a year. And a year came, and you know something, like my life isn't that different now than it was before. It's just that it's easier to live life. It's easier to take it in. It's easier to face the challenges of life. It's easier to deal with your problems, your emotional problems, which are all within you, which you cause yourself. And it's easier to deal with problems that you come from outside, with the problems that other people give you. Like, everything became easier with that clarity. Sobriety is the best thing that ever happened to me. I love the clarity of sobriety. And again, I don't know if it'd be the same for other people. My brain's a little bit different, a little bit ADHD, maybe a little autistic. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Let me see. Any other dietary? Oh, and cutting out alcohol. I thanks. This is pretty recently, to be honest with you. But Thanksgiving, I spent some time with my family. Everybody was drinking. I drank too, because I do have that sort of issue of I don't believe that I'm a true alcoholic, because I think there's levels to alcoholism. I think that a proper alcoholic, like an alcoholic, is somebody who drinks even at times when they really shouldn't be, like when they're driving, or when they're going to work, or when they're, spending time with their children, things like that. But there is a softer alcoholism of when I have the opportunity to drink, or even less than that, just when it's time to drink, like a certain event, a certain function, it's like I have to drink. You do feel compelled you do feel a compulsion. And I do have that. So, and there is an element of that I don't like, because I have family members who have dealt with the issue of alcoholism, or not dealt with the issue of alcoholism. But no, I basically, just to say that since Thanksgiving I haven't had a drink. I mean, it's only been a couple of weeks, so it's like, for whatever that's worth. But no, I don't have any alcohol in my apartment, and I don't intend to buy any more. Now, when I go back to visit my family for Christmas, maybe who knows. But, but maybe I won't. Maybe I'll be able to say no. We'll see when we get there. Sounds like I'm giving myself an out. Like I'm already excusing future behavior.
I don't know if I actually am an alcoholic, or if I was an alcoholic, depending on how you look at it. And I don't think it particularly matters. The point is that there was a time when I drank, and now that time is over. And I don't intend to ever drink again. You know what I mean? I can't sit here and say that it won't happen, but I don't see what good it would ever do me. And I realized that that's what I had done to myself. And I said, I'm not going to do it anymore. Did I still want to keep going back? Hell yes, I did. But every time I did, I just went, I don't want to, though. I kind of want to, but I know where it leads, and I don't want to go there. And just to clarify, and I think in that moment of clarity of realizing after Easter why being sober felt so much better, I think I came to realize the real reason why I would drink alcohol. And it was to deaden the mind, to numb the senses, to not have to worry, to take away the painful thoughts, right? And the ideas that were causing me grief, to not have to deal with your problems, to push aside your problems, to push aside reality, to not have to deal with reality. And that's when I realized that it was really a struggle of myself versus reality, that the real struggle, and I think this applies to everybody in pretty much everything, every issue that people have in their lives, especially mental, emotional issues. It's you versus reality. It's you wanting things to be a certain way and things not really being that way and having to deal with that difference. You cope, you seethe, you comfort yourself, you find different ways to deal with it, or you improve to face the challenge, or you find an alternative, there's all sorts of ways to address the issues in your life. But what you have to realize is that you're trying to square reality with how you'd like reality to be, and that was the ultimate realization for me. And it's so funny when I look at the Benadryl video I made 2 years ago, where I talked about why I think I had that sort of mental breakdown and I resorted to abusing myself with this Benadryl, taking tons of Benadryl. I even in that video, even 10 years later, talking about the experience, I still couldn't really articulate why I did that, like what the issue was. I said, well, it's difficult growing up. I was feeling social pressure from having to be around people or whatever. I didn't really get to the core of the issue. The core of the issue was reality. That was the core of the issue, is that I thought of myself in one way as one thing. And throughout my growing up, I faced challenges through puberty and whatnot and in high school, but I was always able to keep that illusion going. But in college, the illusion sort of fell. Maybe because I was around other people of similar interest and similar, similar academic level to me or whatever. And I could see and have a comparison and have a better idea of what the real world was really like. And it sort of shattered my illusion of myself. Because I've talked about it before. I think I probably am a narcissist, like naturally. Like I do see myself as much more important than I am. But I'm also self-aware of that fact. Like I know I'm not God's gift to creation. I know I'm not the Messiah. I know for a fact that I'm literally just one of billions of people who happen to be alive at this very moment, which is just a small slice of time. And that, with any scale, with any depth, I am totally meaningless. I am an ant, right? I know this factually, right? That's what science says. That's what existence says, right? That's what everybody agrees with. In my heart of hearts, emotionally, on a level that I cannot control, that I have no power over, I guess, I don't believe it. I think I'm the greatest. I think I'm the best. I think I'm the greatest person who ever lived is me. And whether you agree with nobody else seems to agree with that, which is okay. It always bugs me when people think that they're the center of the universe, when people think that they're the main character. It's stupid. It's like so obviously not true. It's like, no, idiot. I'm the main character. Of course you're not the main character. Duh. The world revolves around me, idiot. But I think simply being self-aware of the fact that that is a delusion, that that's not the truth, just being self-aware of that helps me maintain it. So I don't carry myself arrogantly. I don't act dismissive of other people. I always remind myself that others know more than I know. Necessarily by nature of the fact that they are a different person means that they know stuff that I don't know. And that if I only listen to them, I will learn what they have to say. But I think something of that feeling of superiority, that feeling of me being better than those around me is part of what that illusion was that was shattered. It sounds so selfish and so childish, but that is what it was. You know what I mean? I was 19 years old. Find me an unselfish 19-year-old. You know what I'm saying? If only I knew that you could make jailhouse hooch with sugar, yeast, and grape juice when I was 19. No, I just didn't discover that until like fucking a couple years ago. If only I knew that then, I probably would have just made booze in my dorm room and just become an alcoholic on fucking horrible jailhouse hooch. That might have been worse, actually. I can't say that I regret anything I've ever done because, like I say, I'm at a spot now that I think is pretty good and I can improve upon. No matter where you're at, you can always improve, but things could also always be worse. You know what I'm saying? So don't forget that. And I just think if you give sobriety a try, you'll like it. And that includes marijuana too. this is 1 year sober from alcohol. It's been a while since I smoked marijuana, but it hasn't been a year yet, so I can't say I'm 1 year totally sober. I'm California sober, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, I don't plan on even using any marijuana products at all in the future. My last experience with those was like these edibles I had that were terrible. They were just the worst thing ever, and I said, I'm done with this too. So, yeah. The problem is that once you admit you're powerless to solve something, you can never solve it. If I say that I am powerless to do anything, I'm lying to myself. Especially something like alcoholism. Any kind of addiction, really. You are never powerless. Okay? Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say. Hope you enjoy some of the old clips I've interspersed through the video that kind of get you with the mindset that hasn't really changed. Like, as a kid, I intended to be a teetotaler throughout my life and never do any drugs or alcohol.
It's always bothered me, the idea that that you could just destroy yourself, deprive yourself of your senses, that you would deliberately disable yourself, and when you realize the reason why you're doing that, I mean, it's different for different people, but in my experience, what I realized is that I was trying to get out of my own head.
And as an adult, that sort of changed because mostly for curiosity and for, again, trying to cope with reality reasons that changed. But now, as a full adult, now in my 30s, I can officially just embrace the sober lifestyle and just say, hey, it's pretty nice over here, okay? You know what I'm saying? It's not bad. Peace. Love.
Usually when it comes to quitting stuff, the one last time method doesn't work for other people. It works for me, though. The couple of the things that I've quit before. So here we go. 8.5 years of use, 8 years of addiction, ends tonight.
And it's fucking possible. It really is. If you believe in yourself, you have to have confidence. Because if you can have the free agency to drink, you have the free agency to not drink. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to mention. We got some big shit coming up here in a couple months here. Stay tuned to the channel. Stay tuned.